been an exciting day of election results here with 5 state election results being announced. Here are the top headlines of what has happened so far very quickly. The Congress seems to have moved ahead of the BJP in 3 of the 5 states, and the key ones at that: Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, and a lead in Madhya Pradesh, though that's a close one to call. Meanwhile, in Telangana, the TRS has swept Telangana. The Congress plus TDP combined seems to have been a non-starter. The same actually for JCC and BSP. In Mizoram, the Congress has lost out and thus been evicted effectively from all of Northeast. So what do these state results mean for Indian politics and for the national elections which are to follow next year? To speak more on that, I'm joined today by Bobby Ghosh, who's a member of the editorial board at Bloomberg Opinion. Hi Bobby, glad to be speaking with you today.
Thanks for having me.
What do you make of the numbers we've seen today? There were a lot of predictions that looked at Rajasthan going to the Congress. That was expected. Chhattisgarh was 50-50. But if we do end today with a 3-0 in the 3 Hindi heartland states for the Congress, does that effectively change the game for 2019, or will it be a temporary reprieve for the Congress?
Well, Tamanna, as you know, politics is so much about the momentum, and this is the last big election, sort of state elections before the national elections. And so the Congress will be going into the national elections with some momentum, and the BJP with its momentum greatly reduced. You put it succinctly. This is the Hindi heartland. This is also the Hindu heartland. These are the states, the 3 big states, Rajasthan, MP, and Chhattisgarh, are states where 90 and odd % of the population is Hindu, and the BJP's recent sort of very religious tinted campaigning using the Chief Minister of UP, Yogi Adityanath, as a big campaigner. Clearly, these things have not gone down very well with a very large proportion of the electorate in those states. These are also states where Congress was wiped out and is now making a very strong comeback. So the BJP's mantra for the last couple of years of having a Congress Mukt Bharat, well, the Congress is not quite done yet. And so this is a very, very big deal. And looking at it from a distance from London, I'm looking at the sort of big picture rather than the micro view of individual constituencies. It does look like the big picture has the momentum swinging away from the BJP and much more in the direction of Congress.
It's interesting you say that, especially if you look at it in the light of Yogi Adityanath campaigning, you look at it in the light of cow-related violence and mob lynchings that we've seen, and then you also look at it in the light of the kind of campaign the Congress ran in the state of Madhya Pradesh. Not a big caste combination state, clear Hindu majority, and they had a soft Hindutva pitch, right from, you know, a route tracking Lord Ram's journey, or Gaushala in every panchayat district, a cowshed in every panchayat district. It seemed like the Congress was speaking the same language as the BJP. If it turns into a successful experiment in Madhya Pradesh, do you think that the Congress would be tempted to make it a nationwide platform in 2019?
Well, certainly a North Indian platform. I can't speak to whether it would be a nationwide platform, whether that message would resonate in the Northeast, for instance, which has now become Congress Mukt, or whether that would have much resonance in the south of the country. But certainly you can see that becoming part of the Congress platform across the Hindi and Hindu heartland of the country. The fact that Congress has tacked a little bit towards the right, towards a more religion-oriented platform, we've noticed that taking place over the last several months, just as in some ways the BJP has tacked a little left with populist, old Congress-style economic policies. And so both parties have moved in some ways towards each other, and you're creating a sort of new center for Indian politics. And we'll see whether when we begin to parse the sort of the constituency by constituency vote, when we get a better understanding of, for instance, the rural and urban divide of these elections, elections, how the folks out in the farms voted compared to the people in the cities. We'll see how these different messages played out. But it's certainly clear that the light Hindutva, as you pointed out, did not hurt Congress. It certainly worked out to their advantage.
You know, you talked about how rural voters behaved in these elections, and of course, a closer look would talk about those trends. One thing, though, was clear, Bobby, that rural distress and unemployment were key issues in all of these states, in one way or the other. And perhaps, which is why in Telangana, KCR's Raitu Bandhu and other schemes like that have worked out for him. Do you think that those are two issues which also translate to the national picture, and the BJP today would be wondering how to tackle those issues before 2019? They're definitely center stage now.
Unquestionably. I think we knew going in that unemployment and the distress that was being felt by India's farmers would be very big issues in these elections. There was a question about whether the traditional caste and the old formula of Indian politics would override these concerns. Clearly, that's not happened. These concerns are front and center of these elections, and they will certainly be front and center in 2019. Now, you can expect, based on past behavior of Indian politics and Indian parties when they've had power and they've suffered from regional setbacks, they will quickly try to make up and probably overcompensate by announcing big populist measures, by putting money into the pockets of people, trying to create jobs quickly. And that may also explain, by the way, the other big news which managed to get drowned out today, which was the departure of Urjit Patel and the fact that the government has been trying to control the central bank much more. A big part of that had to do with trying to extract from the central bank some money, as well as to loosen the restrictions on banks that would allow for a quick fix, or even if it was a temporary fix, but a quick fix for the economic problems. I think you'll see a lot more of that. I think over the next few months you will see the central government making big announcements designed to try and appease the angry farmer, the angry unemployed Indian. Does it work in such a short period of time? I don't think so. It would depend on when exactly the vote is in 2019. But it's unlikely that any new programs announced over the next few months will trickle down and have an actual effect on the voters in time for the election. It's much more likely, I'm sorry to say, but it's much more likely that you will see the ruling party ratchet up the sort of religious tensions that it has been trying to do over the last few months. I have a feeling that the Ram Mandir, the Ayodhya issue, will come up a lot more in the political rhetoric of the BJP over the next few months.
You know, talking about what these elections mean for both Narendra Modi and Rahul Gandhi, they both campaigned extensively in most of these states, especially the three Hindi heartland states. A lot of the issues they spoke about were national issues, Namdar, Kamdar, and, you know, all of that thrown in. How do you think these results will impact the persona of these two leaders and their public perception right up to 2019?
Well, for Rahul Gandhi, this is finally some sort of portion of legitimacy. For years now, he has been portrayed by his opponents, but also some within his party, as someone lacking the real ability to turn out the vote, to connect with the Indian voter. He was seen as too distant, too out of touch. He now gets a boost, a personal boost. Is that enough to make him a big national figure? Perhaps not. After all, you've seen what happened in Telangana. We've seen what happened in Mizoram. He is not clearly the big vote getter that Narendra Modi used to be, but he's no longer, to use the term that was attached to him for so long, he's no longer Pappu. He is someone of some political stature, finally. For Modi and for Amit Shah, this is a loss of momentum, and this is the first big test of whether they can bounce back. Now, they are going to say over the next few weeks that this was expected, although it wasn't. They will say it was expected. They'll say, well, anti-incumbency happens all the time. Well, if that is true, how do you respond to an anti-incumbency wave like this one? Because if this is anti-incumbency, then what's 2019 going to be? The fact that these were big BJP states that they lost, states where they had enormous power and long-standing chief ministers, particularly Chhattisgarh and in MP, also having power in Delhi. If the combination of having the central government and the state government was not enough for the BJP to deliver to its voters the promises that it had made, then what exactly are people going to expect from them when the next campaign comes around 2 years down the line for the Lok Sabha? Those are questions that people will be asking, and it's a big challenge for Modi to show that he can bounce back. He hasn't really had to do that yet. This may be the biggest setback he has ever suffered in his political career, and we'll see if he can bounce back for this. From Amit Shah, who's supposed to be a genius political manager, well, this is also the first real big setback to that persona, and we'll see if he can pull this back. Look, in Indian politics, the margins tend to be quite small. So it is entirely possible that a 1 percentage point vote here, 1 percentage point vote there, and everything changes. But right now, the wind is behind Rahul Gandhi's sails, and Modi's sails have been deflated somewhat.
Just a point, Bobby, on what happens to the Grand Alliance, which is being formed to take on the BJP and Modi in 2019. They had a key meet yesterday before the results were out. And the general consensus of what they say right now is that there's no face, there's no leader to this alliance. We'll see where the chips fall and then decide. Does this give this alliance a greater wind, or would it tempt the Congress to ask for a bigger share and maybe want to go it alone in more states?
Look, I mean, the message the Congress will have to put out there is, so what if there's not a face? There are so many faces. There's so many strong regional political figures. Why do you need necessarily to have one face at the center? I mean, you've had one with Modi. The message to the voters will be, you've had one face with Modi. If that wasn't good enough, why should you require that again? Why not trust faces closer to you, who you understand and who you respect, and with whom you have a track record? Will a coalition work? I think all the political figures that are being talked about as part of this coalition will look quite closely at the numbers. For instance, in MP, if you look at what the outcome could have been if the BSP and the Congress had formed an alliance before the vote, they would be winning by a quite substantial majority. And that's a lesson there, that if you put your hands together, you can achieve a great deal, and you can sort of go up against the Modi wave, and you can defeat it. That's got to be a lesson that all of these figures will take away. There's always going to be egos when you're talking about people like Mamata Banerjee, Lalu Yadav. There are going to be big egos involved, but all of them will also take from these election numbers the fact that if they can set their egos aside, if they can form a coalition, they can actually win. So perhaps the lure of power in Delhi is strong enough to overcome the egos. We have seen that happen in India in the past. We have seen coalition governments with strong regional parties getting their acts together. It's not inconceivable we could see that again.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Bobby Ghosh, for joining us with all of those inputs. Interesting times and a very interesting perspective there coming from Bobby Ghosh, member of the editorial board at Bloomberg Opinion. A lot more opinion, data-driven analysis, and all the latest on the elections right here on BloombergQuint.com. Do join us again.